Teaching number 149. Here again is the Master who comes to give you his teaching through your conscience. My love becomes a word of light among men, at this time when the world needs to receive my lessons, for the liberation of the Spirit, which shows it the path of salvation. But I do not come at this time as a man, I come in spirit upon each one of you, calling all humanity to know the greatness of the spiritual teachings of the third era. It is my will to enlighten the spirit of the men of this era through the righteousness of my disciples. Morality has fled from the hearts of men, few are those who remain within my law and also few who know how to communicate with their Creator, due to the perversity and spiritual ignorance that exists among humanity. No one expect me or look for me in the form of a man as I came in the second era, nor look for me through the figures made by human hands. The testimony of the third era will not be the only one that speaks to you of my love for humanity, it will be the deeds and words of the 3 eras in which the Father has manifested himself to man. I have called those who are beginning to penetrate the knowledge of my teachings initiates. I have come to reveal to you the reason for many events so that you can forge your thoughts on reason and truth. I come again to teach men, not to learn from them. In the second era they saw me conversing in the temple of wisdom with princes and doctors whom I surprised with words that a man cannot say or understand. That happened in the childhood of Jesus. When the moment of preaching arrived, I went to the Jordan in search of the Baptist, who instantly recognized me when he looked at me. The way in which John recognized me and the humility with which he adored his master are an example of spirituality, clairvoyance and elevation. Today I have returned to you and I have had to speak to you a lot to overcome materialism, doubt and the coldness of your heart. Here I am, disciples, teaching you to know the gifts of your spirit, to know ecstasy, because in ecstasy you listen to the voice of conscience, the impenetrable becomes transparent and darkness is illuminated. This state of elevation cannot be the privilege of only a few beings, it is a gift that is latent in every spirit, but I have always been pleased to have served me, since past times, those who have known how to make use of that grace. In order for the ecstasy to be perfect, you first have to go through an awakening, like the righteous in the early days. Before beginning to preach the good news, Jesus taught you these lessons in the second era, retiring to the desert for 40 days to retire in solitude, meditate and be comforted in the Most High. Truly I tell you that in those hours of intimate communion, Jesus, the man, contemplated the symbol of sacrifice and his matter shuddered. The sky opened and there he contemplated the end that awaited him, he saw the blackened mountain and on top of it a cross where he was nailed, his ears heard the mockery of a people and the phrases addressed to him, "If you are the Son of God, come down from the cross and save yourself." He drained the cup of bitterness because he had to show you all the love in that test. It was his mission to trace the path for you and defeat you with the divine weapons of love, forgiveness and humility. Those weapons are more powerful than any sword and have more force than the raging waves of the sea. They have those who had never felt love to feel it. After a time, humanity felt defeated by my teaching of truth, love and consolation. I do not come to ask you to imitate me in all the path of sacrifice and blood that I traveled in the second era. Some of you will fulfill a part, others will imitate the Master as an example, because there is only one Christ. Prepare to imitate me, because you still don't know which part you have to imitate. But if you come to feel like Jesus, that the words of the Gentiles and of the unbelievers wound you like lashes on your naked flesh, rise up in ecstasy to the Father as the Master taught you on the cross, and the force will be full on your spirit, that will return strengthened to his matter. And when you open your eyes, you will contemplate like Jesus in the desert, that after the ecstasy, while the golden sun calcined the rocks and the sand, fresh drops of dew brought by the breeze caressed on your forehead and mitigated your sorrow. Jesus, the just among the just, in whom the divine spirit was hidden, before making the kingdom of love known, thus prepared himself to give you one more example of humility and perfection, and you, who are the disciples in the third era, have heard that my word has told you, come to me and be the good sowers of my word, because the world has lost its spiritual path. I have reminded you of the teachings of the second era so that you can join them to my new lessons, and with them enlighten humanity, O servants of the third era. Feel my presence that enlightens your spirit and prepares you to understand my message of peace. Forget your sufferings so that you receive my word and its essence remains in your heart. I have sent you once again to earth to continue your mission, so that you recognize that your spirit has to go through a ladder of improvement and that according to your merits, you will reach greater elevation. You will have a single master, a single light will be the one that guides you and always points out the path of your evolution. You can all climb if you fulfill your mission. It has been a long time since you began the journey, and up to now you have risen little. I have come to give you encouragement by making you glimpse from this world in which you live today, the spiritual life of other worlds. If you were able to penetrate the life of all beings, you would see it strewn with many benefits and proofs of love. In me you will find the best friend, the inseparable companion and the divine doctor. In this time when I pour out my loving protection on all my children, you will participate in all these gifts, because you were formed in my likeness. You have long forgotten yourselves, the ties that bind you to me, your nature similar to mine, and that is why you have descended and lost your way. The spiritual path is infinite and I have come to show it to you from its beginning. If you are not inside it, come and I will help you go along it, to make up for lost time. So that the world does not enslave you, dedicate a part of your time to the preparation and development of your spirit. Many of your brothers are in great grief, they are close to you and you have not noticed it. You still do not know how to penetrate hearts, but I am pleased to see you practicing my teaching and it is more pleasant for me to contemplate those who pour out their spirit loving and consoling, than those who only dedicate themselves to the study of my word and forget their duties towards their brothers. Work so that you have peace, fight intensely in this time so that you leave an example of work, obedience and faith. I come to you to make myself recognized as the only God, Father of all beings, to tell you that I want to make each one of you a disciple and heir of mine. From my teaching that is similar to a corpulent tree, I will give you a seed so that you can cultivate it and take it to different places, so that humanity can feed on its fruits. Any misinterpretation that has been made of my word or my works, I will correct it because I want to unify your knowledge so that you all love me in the same way. Watch over the world and let your spirit bring light and peace to humanity, and let the world be illuminated with the diaphanous light that radiates from my spirit. Light is progress, love is redemption, and peace is hope. Love is from the heart, peace is from the spirit and both are a reflection of eternity. I see that some of my children feel bored before the kind words of the Master. It is because their senses are not focused on my words, their thoughts are occupied with material concerns, and for this reason, when they finish listening to me, their hearts are empty, but the Master insists on approaching his children to make their hearts beat with his divine teaching. Humanity that awakens your faculties to know human science and numbs them when studying the divine essence. You go tired, along the road strewn with thorns, looking for the goal of your human knowledge. But I, from among the lost, will select my servants and I will make their hearts vibrate with love towards their brothers. If men do not care about their spiritual advancement, I watch over all spirits. If they do not listen to the voice of their conscience, which is my own voice, they will not have communication with my divinity. This humanity, because of its materialism, is still an idolater. Aaron, you forged the idol before Israel, but in truth, the false gods will be pushed off their pedestals and fall to the ground. Where is Solomon's temple? Where is the tabernacle? If I made the symbols that were lawful disappear, how can I not fight until I exterminate the fanatic worships? Solomon built a material temple to worship me, and not a stone was left of it. The ministers of these times dress royally to officiate symbolically in the sacrifice of Jesus, and despite the fact that they take my name and my representation, I discover their troubled mind, their heart whipped by the gales of intrigues and passions. There is no one who as a prophet announces that I am among the men of this time. They will have great bitterness, because among them there is no spiritual preparation. Where is the fulfillment of those who have sworn before Jesus, to follow in his footsteps? Where are the imitators of my apostles? Is there anyone who resembles John, who was one of the first, or Paul, who was one that followed? This is why the Master approaches you again to resume his lesson. I already see the new Pharisees and scribes launching themselves full of hatred against me. Then it will be when I ask, where are my disciples? And when the arrogant, the false, the enriched who fear losing their power, those threatened by my truth mock and persecute me again, hurricane winds will blow, but it will not be I who fall under the weight of the cross, but those who ask for the sacrifice for the one who gave them life. It is not the human voice that you hear in these moments, it is the heavenly voice that announces the events that will be, so that you who heard my prophecies find yourselves prepared and do not be disturbed when you see that even the same forces of nature feel imbalanced, because I am the universal force in justice, and in justice I will manifest myself. I have come to remove the vices of the world so that men, getting rid of sinful customs and ideas, be inspired and speak of the Spirit, then they will see me symbolized in the sweet silhouette of Jesus, indicating the path that leads to the true goal of the Spirit, where I wait for you. You are guardians of the Third Testament. Guard this legacy with great zeal for future generations. But show my works with the perfection that they have, because if you come to me without having fulfilled your mission, you will have to reincarnate again and then your fight will be harder. You imitate Moses at this time, in this desert of human life. Truly I say to you, be once more on the mountain, because there my voice will resound, understand me. The mountain of this time is your elevation, where you will receive my mandate, and you will hear my voice in your conscience. From there you will be able to see the promised land that is in the perfection of the Spirit. The divine law never passes, human laws do change according to the spiritual evolution of men. You shall love God with all your heart and with all your spirit, is the first precept of the divine law, which has not changed and will not change. Its essence, its meaning, its doctrine, are eternal. But you also heard that it was said to you, you shall love your neighbor and hate your enemy, but that was not a precept of the divine law, but one of many human laws that were appropriate at that time. I came among you through Jesus and said to you, love your enemies, bless those who curse you, do good to those who hate you, and pray for those who despitefully use you and persecute you, so that you may be recognized as sons of your Father who is in heaven. This is spiritual law, and therefore eternal, it will not undergo any change. Only the human is what changes, evolves and transforms. What can you do to know which are the signs, revelations, prophecies and laws whose application has passed, and which are still in force? Which revelations are eternal and which prophecies have not been fulfilled? Truly I tell you that only clean prayer and a fruitful life can give you enough spirituality to find the divine essence that I have given you in the 3 times. When the scribes and the Pharisees observed the acts of Jesus and found them to differ from their own, they said that the doctrine he preached went against the law of Moses. It is that they were confusing the law with the traditions, but I proved to them that I had not come to transgress the law that the Father had revealed to Moses, but to fulfill it with words and deeds. Certainly I passed over many of the traditions of that people, because the time had come for them to disappear, to start a new time, with higher teachings. If in the first revelations I had told you everything, there would have been no need for the Master, the Messiah, to have had to teach you new lessons, nor for the Holy Spirit to have come at this time to show you the greatness of the spiritual life. Therefore I tell you, do not cling to what was revealed to you in the early days, as if it had been the last word of my doctrine. I came again among men and for a long time I have communicated through their understanding, and I can still tell you that my last word has not been said. Always search in my book of wisdom, the last word, the new page that reveals to you the meaning, the content of the previous, so that you may truly be my disciples. Today you live far away from those who suffer more than you, but when spirituality is the one that illuminates your life, then you will seek to live close to those from whom you distance yourself today, because you think they are lost, or because they inspire disgust in you. You will become bearers of the word of light, redemption and hope, and you will approach those who have been forgotten by their peers. You will not speak harshly to anyone, because that is not how they are redeemed. You will learn that the sinner should not be insulted to punish his fault. I tell you that if you speak to wild beasts with love, they bow their heads. If the one to whom you speak has some merits, tell him. If you find in him some virtue among many defects, do not talk to him about the defects but about the virtue to stimulate him and impel him towards good. May it be love that guides you, so that you become true messengers of the divine Comforter. Because you, those of you who have not fallen into an abyss, are always blaming, you are judging lightly, you condemn your fellow men without the slightest mercy, and that is not my doctrine. If before judging, you made a study of yourselves and your defects, I assure you that your judgment would be more merciful. You consider those who are in prisons to be bad, and you consider those who are in hospitals to be unfortunate. You separate yourself from them, without realizing that they are worthy to enter the kingdom of my love. You do not want to think that they also have the right to receive the rays of the sun, which was made to give life and warmth to all beings, without exception. These beings confined in places of expiation, many are mirrors in which humanity does not want to look, because it knows that the image that mirror returns to them, will be on many occasions that of the accusation. But I tell you, blessed are those of my servants who know how to feel in their hearts the pain of those who live deprived of liberty or health, and visit and comfort them, because one day they will meet again, be it in this or in another life, and then you do not know if they have more health, greater freedom and light than those who brought them the message of love to a prison or a hospital, and then they reciprocate with their gratitude, extending a hand to those who once knew how to extend it to them. That moment in which you made my word reach their hearts, that moment in which you passed your hand over their forehead and made them think of me and feel me, will never be erased from their spirit, just as it will not be erased from their mind or your face. Nor your brother's voice, so they will recognize you wherever they find you. Here, listening to my word, you forget for a moment the sorrows that afflict all men, and you remove from your mind the ideas of destruction, war and death that threaten humanity. Do you fear pain? Throw away sin, and pain will be powerless against you. You will feel another pain, but it will no longer be the selfish pain, it will not be yours, but you will begin to suffer for love of others. The spirit, when it rises, feels for its fellow men, and the closer it gets to me, and the more it loves me, the greater its love towards its brothers. I am teaching you to walk the path that frees you from the anguish and suffering caused by human hatred and ambition, teachings that for moments you judge impracticable, but soon you will embrace it with faith, convinced that it is the only way to salvation. You have not yet understood the meaning of my word, nor do you realize your mission. That is why there are those who, feeling spiritual delight when listening to me, prefer to move away for fear of contracting commitments with their master and with their brothers. And there are others who tell me, Lord, it is not possible for us to comply with your teachings and your orders, because we are small and we have materialized, but do not deprive us of listening to your word. It is so beautiful that despite being impracticable, full of joy and peace in our hearts. Ah, infants who do not know what you say. You call my teaching impracticable, judging it impossible to carry out, and do not take into account that you are listening to it through an impure human being, a sinner like all of you, who it was possible to transmit God's message to men. What greater impossibility is there than this? Love your father, have charity for your fellow men, stay away from everything that is harmful to your human life or your spirit. This teaches you my doctrine. Where do you see the difficulties and the impossible? No, beloved people, it is not impossible to fulfill my word, it is not the difficult one, but your amendment, regeneration and spirituality, because you lack noble sentiments and lofty aspirations. But, as I know that all your doubts, ignorance and indecision will have to disappear, I will continue teaching you, because for me there are no impossible things. I can turn stones into bread of eternal life, and I can make crystal clear water flow from rocks. Penetrate to the bottom of my word and you will no longer have to search for the truth. In the essence of this message you will find the flow of light that your spirit needs to possess. Analyze my word so that you can feed yourselves with its essence, so that you can find my presence and feel my divine caress. When analyzing, try to go beyond the form of the word, and try to interpret everything you find symbolic or allegorical, seeking simplification and spirituality in your analyses, observations and studies, always thinking that tomorrow you will have to share this message with your brothers, to whom you will give it already analyzed, so that they understand it sooner. Put aside in time all symbols and all material images, but keep the meaning of them. Understand how little value forms have, if you compare them with the eternal essence of the spiritual. Also try to penetrate little by little in this wisdom, so that the practice of my lessons does not seem impossible to you. Assemble, beloved disciples, that the time of your struggle has come, and it will be short for each one of you, if you take into account the shortness of your life on earth. Hurry up, you have a lot to do. Do not think that you lack something to be able to be my disciples in this work. In the second era I also chose my apostles. They were not wise, they were not luminous in human wisdom, they were simple fishermen of the sea. I turned them into sowers and fishermen of the Spirit. I also want to convert you into spiritual fishermen, so that you can take my message of love to all hearts lost in the wide sea of passions and materialism in which humanity lives, and from there, from that sea, select and save everyone who is called by you in my name. Then my message of hope will reach the heart of the fratricide, the murderer, the arrogant, the profane, the insensitive to the pain and misery of others, and my word will be fulfilled in all. For now, and while you prepare, pray for the nations and the peoples, pray for all, because humanity is stepping on thistles and thorns, the same ones that they previously placed for others to step on. It is men who have prepared their abyss and then will have to cry out for mercy, which they never felt for a fellow man. But it is necessary to save, forgive and redeem, because in each man lives a spirit that will reach me. You are the first fruits of a people that will be the spiritual beacon of humanity. A new Israel that, once freed from its captivity, will rise up in pursuit of the highest ideal that exists in the Spirit, and that is to come to dwell in the bosom of God, your Lord. You are still far from being able to illuminate the path of your brothers with your example, but my voice, resounding in your conscience, it encourages you to continue, not to lose heart, to persevere in the struggle, because only in this way will this people write its history in the heart of humanity. The tests that you see appearing daily in your life are the anvil where your spirit is being tempered, where your virtue will be refined and your faith will be strengthened. Without tests, there will be no merits, without merits, there can be no award. Meditate on the tests that Israel went through in the first era, consider its bitterness, its tribulations and needs, and then you will understand why it was granted to reach the promised land, where for many centuries that people knew of peace, of the healthy joy and communion with his Lord. The happiness of that people in the land that was granted as a reward for their faith and perseverance was not eternal, because nothing is eternal in the world, but I tell you, in truth, that the new promised land, the one that is the ideal of elevation of your spirit, that will be eternal, that will give you shelter forever and will make you feel and know the spiritual life in all its fullness and elevation. I bless each of these houses where you gather to pray and receive the bread of my word, just as I bless your homes. Truly I tell you that any of these enclosures is no better than one of your homes. If you enter here in recollection and in respect because you know that the place is destined to unite you in prayer to form the spiritual temple, I also tell you that your home is a second temple, because if the Spirit forms its sanctuary in prayer, in the divine word, in meditation and in the practice of the law, man finds a second worship in the home, where he receives love, warmth, examples, teachings and advice. But do not confuse the home with the material house. This will be able to disappear and you will be left in the open, and yet your home will not have been destroyed as long as love, respect, obedience and all those virtues that the human family should treasure exist among you. Nor can these enclosures constitute the true temple, since if you carry it in your spirit, you will be able to find it here as well as in your house, in the city or in the country, under a tree, on the mountain, in the seashore or in the desert. The temple of the Spirit is everywhere, so it will only require your preparation for you to find it. For now continue to congregate in these rooms, as long as you need it, do it, that my love, my charity and my blessings will be poured out in your meetings, where I will allow my presence to be felt, where I will make the spirits reborn in the light and the sick feel the prodigy of their healing listening to my word. My Arcanum is always ready to pour into you what you ask for, what you need. However, not everything must be done by your Father. You are living a time in which the Master's love must find an echo in the hearts of the disciples for the miracle to take place. Be tireless reviewing my word. She, like an invisible chisel, will be in charge of polishing the rough edges of your character until you are prepared to deal with the most delicate problems of your brothers. In them you will find penalties, expiations and restitutions, whose causes can be very diverse. Some will not have a very difficult origin to understand, instead, there will be others that only with intuition, with revelation and with clairvoyance you will be able to discover, to free your brothers from a heavy burden. These gifts will only work these wonders when the one who puts them into practice has been inspired by charity towards his fellow men. My peace be with you.